Breaking 49ers coaching news. San Francisco is expected to hire K.J. Wright, the former star Seattle Seahawks linebacker, to be their assistant linebackers coach behind Johnny Holland. News first reported by our Seahawks reporter at The Athletic, Michael Sean Duggar. There's a picture of K.J. Wright. Article is linked in the description. K.J., for nearly a decade, was a really, really good NFL linebacker. Was a Pro Bowler in 2016 for Seattle. And obviously, this is not the first time that the 49ers have poached the Pete Carroll era Seahawks of defensive talent. Richard Sherman most famously came over in 2018, but perhaps most influentially, Robert Saleh, the 49ers' first defensive coordinator of this regime, was a former Seattle Seahawks staffer, and he coached K.J. Wright in the past decade. So you had Saleh, who brought over Malcolm Smith in 2017 to help implement the system. The 49ers continue to run a variation of it. Nick Sorensen, the 49ers' new defensive coordinator, was also a Seattle Seahawks staffer. So you see KJ Wright in that picture. Nick Sorensen coached KJ back in Seattle. So the 49ers, I think, are obviously trying to double down on their original identity following the year of Steve Wilks as defensive coordinator. They told Wilks they wanted to keep the same identity, but it proved too clumsy and too difficult. So they went back inside house this year to promote Nick Sorensen. We've heard the report, and we talked about it all last week about how the 49ers were trying to pry Jeff Ulbrich away from the Jets. Well, Ulbrich is under Robert Saleh. Ulbrich is also part of the same family tree of coaches. So obviously the 49ers have tried to consolidate back on tying rush and coverage together with the linebacker position. Obviously no Ulbrich, but Sorensen is the coach. He's tied to Seattle, and obviously KJ Wright is tied to Seattle. My first question about this is, can KJ Wright become the next DeMeco Ryans? Star linebacker, young young assistant coach. Obviously, DeMeco Ryans became a young head coach. I mean, his ascent was meteoric, but people need to remember that DeMeco started with the 49ers as a quality control guy back in 2017. Then he became an assistant linebackers coach. Then he rose to defensive coordinator, and then he rose to the Houston Texans head coaching job. KJ Wright is similarly gifted as far as being able to see plays before the snap. That when you watch KJ Wright tape, when you hear KJ Wright talk, he took so much pride as a player in diagnosing movements pre-snap based on formation, based on different tells. Then he'd fire through the gap to make a play. That is the difference in the NFL, because everybody's athletic, everybody's strong in the NFL, but it's what you can do cerebrally that's really important. And I think that when you hear KJ Wright talk, when you see how he played in Seattle, you can see the coaching potential here. And that's obviously something that DeMeco Ryans had, and the 49ers will hope that KJ Wright can take a similar path. You see here on the bottom, I put the KJ Wright, Kyle Shanahan back and forth. Well, this was on Yahoo Sports. This is from an interview last year. I'm going to read off what KJ Wright said in this interview with Yahoo Sports because it's great. It's about his sideline trash talk toward Kyle Shanahan. And, here it is. Quote, "For the most part, I was pretty cool. But one thing that I did do is when I made a play, a person that I loved to look to was the San Francisco 49ers sideline, in particular, Kyle Shanahan. He would wear his hat. It would be all low. He'll just be calling plays, and I look at him. I'm like, how dare you even think about running that play to my side? I know you see me. Don't run that screen to my side." Wright did say that Shanahan is one of the best play callers that this game has ever seen, but that's what caused the respect level to be so high. Quote, "When I made a play that Kyle Shanahan drew up, I let him know, yeah, I sniffed that out. Run it somewhere else." He'd pretend like he don't see me. He has his hat all low, the playbook over his face. "I know you saw me. He heard me loud and clear, but he didn't say anything back." I've got to wonder, and I'm assuming that the answer is yes, but did that come up in the interview process? Because I think Shanahan loves to be challenged in these interview processes. He loves to incorporate new knowledge. We just saw the 49ers hire Brandon Staley to be the assistant head coach. Staley is bringing a different defensive background than the 4-3 cover 3 Seattle system that the 49ers have stayed true to. So they obviously want to evolve over time. So when you look at Brandon Staley coming aboard as a whiteboard guy for San Francisco, I think that was a product of a challenging interview process. And here, K.J. Wright, as a player, he respected that Shanahan system a lot, so much that he's talking trash to Shanahan on the sideline. Obviously, didn't stop Kyle Shanahan from hiring him to be that assistant linebackers coach. So interesting stuff as the 49ers try to tie the rush and the coverage together via the linebacker position. You look at the fact that they had Robert Saleh, who was tied the coaching linebackers with Seattle before he became the 49ers defensive coordinator. Then it was a fiery on-field presence. They had D'Amico Ryans, an all-pro linebacker, was a fiery on-field presence. Obviously, they didn't have the same dynamic with Steve Wilks, and they lost Saleh, they lost D'Amico Ryans to head coaching jobs. In a way, this KJ Wright hire, I think, is a way for the 49ers to bring in a young coach who can communicate with the linebackers. It's one of the big issues they had with Steve Wilks. They even had to yank him down out of the booth, down to the field to try to get the communication with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw to be, at a higher level down on the field. I think they can try to replace some of what they lost in terms of that on-field fieriness with an assistant like KJ Wright, because he's so close to his playing days. He's not far removed from them. So, they can take somebody that still has that connect with players type of mentality and start to groom him as a coach, but at the same time, feel that disconnect that the 49ers may have had last season when it came to that on-field fire from one of their coaches. So I think KJ Wright might be uniquely positioned to give that to the 49ers. But that Shanahan back and forth, I think that was gold. And I've watched a few KJ Wright interviews already. And obviously, really bright guy. I think that his initial goal, because he was nearly a Seahawks lifer, he played 1 year at the end of his career for the Raiders, but he was nearly a Seahawks lifer. He wanted to become an assistant coach with the Seahawks, but obviously Pete Carroll's no longer the head coach there. The new guy, Mike McDonald, hired somebody else to coach the linebackers. So KJ Wright went to the offshoot of the Seattle defense, the place that runs it, the San Francisco 49ers instead. The respect, though, is immense for Kyle Shanahan's system from KJ Wright, as you saw in that quote. And I think it goes the other way. I think the proof is in the pudding. The 49ers and Shanahan respected the Seattle defense so much in the 2010s that they wanted to make it their own. And that's why they brought Robert Saleh in, Malcolm Smith, Richard Sherman. And I think that respect still runs to today in their hiring of KJ Wright. So, is he going to be the next D'Amico Ryans? I don't know. But the 49ers are hiring KJ Wright. They're bringing in coaching talent who they believe can add some fire to the sideline. And, just like you develop players, the 49ers try to develop coaches. The 49ers try to develop executives. And this is some coaching talent that the 49ers really thought would fit well on their coaching staff with KJ Wright. One more time, the picture of him. Make sure to check this out up on The Athletic. That is the man himself. 4 100 tackle seasons in the NFL, Pro Bowler in 2016. 49ers now going to hope that he transitions well to the coaching sphere. Obviously, Nick Sorensen is the defensive coordinator. Brandon Staley is going to be bringing in his own stuff as an assistant head coach, more of a whiteboard guy on defense. And KJ Wright's going to get to learn under Johnny Holland, who's one of the better linebacker coaches in the game. Holland, of course, has been dealing with multiple myeloma, the cancer here over the past couple years. So that's also a consideration. You want to make sure that Holland has an assistant who's, learning from his wealth of knowledge and able to step in case Johnny Holland is ever in a position where he can't deliver as many hours, or we have seen Johnny Holland have to take some time off here over the course of the past couple of years. Also, the 49ers have 2 young linebackers, and there's going to be a lot on their plate this year because Dre Greenlaw is coming off of the Achilles surgery. Who knows if he's going to be ready for week 1, but D. Winters, Jalen Graham, both second-year guys, 49ers counting on them to make big jumps, potentially to fill in for Dre Greenlaw. Well, you got to make sure that linebacker coach position is stocked up with talent, and that is why KJ Wright is part of it. All right, read up some more. Go check out the link to the article. We will talk to you all very soon.